Okay, so hello. Hello, everyone. Just starting a stream on Facebook here. Give me a moment. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to this live talk, this live Q&A with me, Bante Warapanyo. This will be an opportunity for people to ask any question, ask anything that they might like to ask to an American Buddhist monk. And there's not one particular focus of this event. There's not something in particular that I'm trying to emphasize or teach or even to share here today. But the direction of this talk, this live stream, this Q&A will be completely dependent upon the questions that people ask. All right? So you can either raise your hand if you're here in the Reddit talk, or you can leave a comment from wherever you are watching from, and I will do my best to try and answer your question. As a short and general introduction, I am Bante Warapanyo. I am an American Buddhist monk, and I've been a monk for 4 years now. And I've been a meditator and a Buddhist for coming up on 10 years. In 2018, I moved from America to Thailand to ordain and become a Buddhist monk. And I started my journey of meditation and Buddhist study in 2014, when I went to live at a Buddhist temple and meditation center for a year. So now my life as a monk consists of doing my best to be a better person, to live more skillfully and wholeheartedly in the present moment, to do good deeds, and to practice mindfulness and detachment. So hosting events like this, where I have the opportunity to be accessible and to answer questions for people, is an avenue for me, an inspiring avenue for me to do good deeds. And so I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to the questions that people have. So, like I said, you can either leave a comment and ask a question that way, or if you're here on the Reddit talk, then you can raise your hand and be brought up to speak. Also, if you are interested, I will also be sharing this talk on my YouTube channel. So I'll post a link to the live stream in the comments right now. So if you'd like to see me, to see the live talk through YouTube, you're invited to click onto that. It's in the comments, and you'll be able to see me. And as we are moving forward, there may be some people asking questions with their voice from other platforms, such as from Discord. So, in that case, if you want to hear the person asking the question, you might need to watch through YouTube. Okay, just going to edit this and make sure people can see that this is the link to the live stream of this Q&A. And all right, so we will start bringing people up to ask questions. And if you want to leave a comment and ask a question that way, you can also do that. And hi there to Johnsky on YouTube. And welcome to Say Hello if you're watching on Facebook. Say hello and check in. All right, so we'll start by bringing up a Pi Junior, Rad, and Celery. So you're all welcome to come up and ask a question. Okay, you just have to unmute your mic, Pi Jr. If you want to ask a question, have to unmute your mic. And let's see, we have some questions in the comments here. And do make sure you go to the comments and you can see the link to the live stream, and please do update that so that other people can see that. So Cbus says, I'm watching from Estonia. How can I better process the anxiety I have about the future of the world? There's a really wonderful talk on this by a monk that is in the Plum Village tradition, which might not mean anything to you, but Plum Village climate. And I'm going to respond to your comment with the link to this talk, because that's a really great talk to listen to about the climate crisis and how to respond to the climate crisis in a compassionate and healing way. So I hope that you'll be able to watch this, because this is really something that I've enjoyed, this talk. So I'm going to reply to your comment with that link. Okay, response to the climate crisis. I would say for any major worries that we have about the future, a big way to deal with that and to calm that down is coming back to our present moment experience, right? So it can be really easy to become overwhelmed by the future world, our idea of what the world is going to be, could be, will be like in the future, whatever it could be or will be. It's easy to be overwhelmed that way. But whatever the situation is going to be, coming back home to this present moment, connecting with the body, and also connecting with nature, right? Going outdoors, being around the trees, being in the fresh air, if we have access to that, can be really healing and calming. And then from that place of peace and calm and awareness, presence in the present moment, you can try to make decisions and really set your intention to live in a way that does your small part in dealing with the climate crisis, and supporting the health of the future of the world, and also working together in communities and being a part of wholesome communities, and interacting with other people who share your intentionality. If we feel isolated, we feel disempowered, period. Whereas if we are working together with other people, we see we feel inspired, and we also see the potentiality of our intention to heal, to turn back the clock in terms of climate change or unskillful decisions that we've made that have affected ourselves or the environment. When we are cooperating with other people, we really do feel empowered. So I think that's also a way to support this processing of the anxiety that we can have about the future. Okay. So I think we have some people who are raising their hands, and anyone who's just joining the talk now, you can raise your hand and come up to ask a question if you have one. Pi, you want to unmute and ask a question? If not, can continue answering questions from the comments. Maybe I'm not hearing. Maybe I need to refresh my browser. Okay. So another comment here on Reddit is, I have heard that living in a monastery most of your time is devoted to meditation. Is that true? Depends on the monastery. It depends on the temple. Some monasteries are strongly focused on doing good deeds, doing social work, doing activities to take care of the environment, to provide food, to provide shelter to the local community. Some monasteries are very focused on, we can say, religious work. So teaching the religion. Some monasteries are very focused on studying academics. So it just depends on what monastery you're at. Someone says, what is a Buddhist monk? So a monk is like a priest or a renunciate, someone who is practicing celibacy, renunciation, and is devoting themselves, kind of has the job of the doing good, being good, training the mind, studying the mind, and helping other people to study the mind, to do good, to be good, to heal, we can say. And first and foremost, the job of a monk and what a monk is someone who's seeking the truth about the nature of mind and the nature of reality through meditation and through the development of goodness, the development of peace. What is my view on having kids? If you have kids, please do your best to take really good care of them and do your best to learn from them. All right. Over on the YouTube live stream, we have a couple questions through comments. Open Skills says, if you want to be a monk, are monks paid salary? Usually not. Monks survive through the generosity of people who support them, usually Buddhist people who support the monks. We have a question. Can you explain further about the merit bank? I don't understand it fully. Okay, so in our Discord server that I run, which is kind of like a online intentional community, like an online meditation center, Discord server that I run, we're introducing this project or this activity of a merit bank. So a merit bank, what is merit first and foremost? So merit is like the good effects that you accrue from doing good deeds. All right. So if you are someone who is very involved in goodness and in generosity and regulating your behavior so that you are more skillful and less unskillful, then there's a brightness, there's a quality of joy and happiness, and good things seem to happen to you, right? Good things seem to happen to good people. And so this is what we know in Buddhism as merit. Okay, and it's like the stored good effects, the not yet expressed good effects from doing good deeds. All right. And then demerit is the losing of the good effects of those good deeds, we can say. So anyway, this concept in our Discord server of a merit bank is basically like a donation center, so that people who would like to, well, let me step back. One of the easiest ways that we can make merit, one of the easiest ways that we can make blessings, let's say, is by generosity. So when you are generous, when you offer something that you have, something that is precious to you, something that you are holding on to, when you offer that, you share that, you make merit, okay? You make blessings. You experience for yourself the joy of letting go and also the joy of benefiting other people, and it comes back to you. And this is something that we as human beings kind of naturally understand, that if you are generous, if you offer up what you have, then you get back what you do. You get back what you are offered, okay? Or you get back what you share in some ways. This is this concept of merit. So the merit bank that we are working to open up in the Discord server is basically a place where members of the community can make a post in a channel of the Discord and say, I have these books, or I have this jacket, or I have something. It can be an item or a service or an ability that they have that I'm willing to offer, that I want to donate, that I want to share. And then people who are in need, or people who have a need to use something, need to make a withdrawal, then they can point that out and say, hey, I could really use this. And then the staff in my server and my online community will try to support making arrangements so that to help send that person that item or that service, what have you. So this is the general idea of a merit bank. Um, and the basic premise is just a place and an opportunity for people to give freely and receive freely. And that's just an extension of our community that we have over in the Discord server. All right. Pi Jr. or Captain, would you like to ask a question? Okay, we'll bring up some more. I still cannot hear. Uh-oh. I think I've got something going on my side where I can't hear. Okay.
Yeah, Pi Junior is trying
All
to get
right.
through to you.
Okay, so let's go. Let's start with Pi. Pi, go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that you're here too. So let's go to Captain. You have a question, Captain?
Yes, please. How how would someone find themselves? I'm struggling to understand what kind of person I am. I don't want to say that I'm a good person because then that would imply that the people around me are bad. I'm a nice person, but I'm struggling to know what kind of person I actually am. Do the Buddhist monks have a way of doing that? I don't mean in a sense of enlightenment or anything like that, just sort of looking inside and seeing, um, yeah, just trying to determine what kind of person you are, really,
Okay.
if that if that makes sense. I hope it does.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the premises, one of the teachings that we've been looking at over the past few days in my Discord community. We have a community there, and we look at Buddhist teachings and different aspects of the Buddhist philosophy. We practice meditation together. And we've recently been looking at this idea about the assumption of a self as a kind of ignorance. So that there is certainly a body when it comes to, how do I find out about myself? What's the truth? What's reality, right? So there's certainly a body. There's certainly a bodily experience, a physical experience, a material experience, right? Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. And then there's also certainly a mental experience. So we have perceptions, we have inclinations, we have judgments that come up, and so there's certainly kind of this mental aspect. Okay, we even have dreams or ideas or thoughts. And most of the time, we go through life with this assumption that, and there's also this self. But in Buddhism, we have this premise in our philosophy in terms of the truth and understanding the nature of what we really are, what the situation really is that it's totally possible for there to be a body and a mind without a self. That a bodily experience, the ears, eyes, nose, tongue, body, and the mental experience can exist without relying upon this kind of self that is in the background, controlling everything, or continuously existing. So it is not to reject this idea of self, but to kind of take a step back from this assumption of a self, this assumption of a real true you that exists in the background and is always there throughout all of these mental and physical experiences. And the analogy that came to my mind when we were looking at this in our group was the assumption of knowing what's around you and knowing where you are in a completely dark room. That if you are willing to put down the assumption that you know where everything is, then you can kind of navigate, you can explore, and eventually you can turn the light switch on and see where you are and see what the situation is. But if you're operating under the assumption that you know where things are, even though it's dark, you can't really see this self. You can't really see everything that's around you, but you're operating under the assumption that, oh, this is there, that's there, then you're really in a mess. You're bumping into this, you're bumping into that, and you have to bump around a lot until you eventually turn the light on. So the process of finding out about our self in Buddhism is actually more about finding the truth and trying to experience the truth and kind of look into, investigate the nature of things rather than our assumptions about things. And to do that is to put down our assumptions, to not take our thoughts or our worries or the kind of stickiness of our mind so seriously, and to kind of begin this exploration, this looking into the body itself, especially the body, emphasize the body, because the mind gets very concocted, right? It gets very multifaceted, multi-layered, very confused, and it's a little bit can be too much to start with that. But we start to look into the nature of the body at this present moment. The feeling of the breath, the feeling of the heart, the feeling of the stomach, your body at this present moment. And we take that as the basis of our investigation into the truth. And that's meditation. So I would say for anyone who wants to really know about their true self, or, who am I really? What's really the nature of me?
It's because I've been going through.
Yeah. Being willing to put down that assumption of me to begin with and start to step into this exploration, this looking into your direct experience. And then you learn through experience rather than your thinking or your assumptions. So that's what I can recommend is try to look into the bodily experience, and don't hold on so strongly to this assumption of any self, let alone this real true self that you need to figure out or to solve. Okay, Captain?
I do understand. Yeah, I do understand. I've been provoked into thinking that my reactions to things are wrong. I've had an emotional response to something that it doesn't feel like it's me. It doesn't feel like I'm that person. And yet the things that come from me, my thoughts, the things that I say, my actions, I don't believe that is the true me. That's just a reaction to my surroundings. And I'm really struggling with the idea that I'm actually a bad person. I don't think I'm a bad person. I think I'm genuine, I'm friendly, I'm generous. I try and be the best that I can be. But the outside stimulus is just causing me to be this horrible, nasty, vindictive, and I don't want to be that. That's not who I am. But I don't truly know who I am, whether or not maybe that is me. Maybe I am
So
secretly.
what's important is to come home back to center. Don't overthink it. And like I said, try to investigate the bodily experience, and that's what I can offer right now.
Thank you very
And
much, sir. I really hope you have a great day.
thank you. And
I have a question.
one last thing, and then you can go ahead. Um, and rather than emphasizing the effects, okay, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that, emphasize your actions, emphasize the causes. So doing good deeds. Go ahead.
Somebody in chat is being negative, and I don't appreciate the way that he's talking to you. So if you want me to take care of him, I will for you. He's talking bad stuff to you right now.
Okay. Thank you, Adventurous.
You're welcome.
All right. So I see that we have a lot of new people here in the live talk. It's great to have all of you here. Just do a quick reintroduction of myself. And if anyone would like to see me, I am live also on YouTube. So if you go to the comments, you'll see that the top comment is a link to my live stream. So you can see me, American Buddhist monk, here in the flesh. And you're welcome to connect in that way and see that I'm, a real person, not just a voice. I'm really appreciating everybody who is here. My name is Bante Warapanyo. I am a 29-year-old American Buddhist monk. I got into Buddhism and meditation when I was about 20 years old, 21 years old, as a way to deal with a lot of really deep suffering that I was having in my mind. social suffering, emotional suffering, psychological suffering, just really all that jazz. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to heal that. And it eventually led me to looking into spirituality and Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle and all these kind of different spirit, quote unquote, spiritual ideas. And that eventually led me to Buddhism and meditation. And so in 2015, I went from one of my lowest points in my psychology and my ability to take care of myself to living at a Zen meditation center in New Mexico. And I lived there for a year. I was 21 years old. So that experience of living in community, of practicing regular meditation and attending intensive meditation retreats, and also learning from people who were more experienced and more skillful in taking care of their mind and body than I was, really put this deep and profound connection within me to Buddhism and to meditation. And so even after I left that temple, that meditation center, I still kind of identified as a Buddhist and a meditator and continued attending intensive meditation retreats. About 3 years later, in 2018, I had reached my kind of like tippy top of material success, which wasn't, amazing. It wasn't something unbelievable, but I was able to take care of myself and basically had everything that I wanted materially in my life. And something sparked in me that said, this isn't what I want. I want to focus my life on meditation and spirituality and Buddhism. So I moved to Thailand and became a monk in 2018. Since then, I've been traveling the world, learning, teaching. I run maybe one of the most active meditation communities on Discord called Monk Life. I teach meditation online, and I also continue to learn from my own side of things from meditation teachers, monks, and I try to support other people on the path by hosting group meditations and hosting more informal Q&As like this. So that's who I am in a nutshell, and that's kind of what's going on here. So the general format of this is that you can either leave a comment and ask a question that way, or you can raise your hand and I can bring you up to the stage and you can use your voice to ask a question. And it's definitely ideal, it's preferred if you can raise your hand and come up to the stage and use your voice to ask a question so we can have kind of a, so it's not just me talking to a wall. And I really want to make clear that I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist. And I don't have a relationship probably with anyone here, with most people here. So if you come up, please ask a direct question. Please don't try to go into your life story too much, because there's a lot of people here who would like to ask questions, seemingly, and I can't really get to know you in this period of time. And also, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I can just offer sharing from my experience as a monk, and as someone who's dealt with my own suffering, but I'm not really able to have a personal call or a personal long form dialogue with anyone here. So please try to keep your questions to be as direct and sincere as possible, and understand that I'm not a therapist, and I'm just going to try and share my experience as directly as I can in a helpful way. Okay, so let's dive into it. Let's continue. And I am live streaming on YouTube as well. So if you'd like to see me in the flesh, if you go to the comments of this page, you'll see a link to the live stream of this Q&A, and you can click it. You can see me, and we can connect that way as well. Okay, so let's bring some more people up now. We'll bring up HD Tech, Benny, a few more people, Maleficent. I'm at work. and night, and XAA. And upon coming up to stage, you just need to unmute your mic, and then you can ask your question. So let's start with HD Tech. Go
Hi, good
ahead.
morning.
Good morning. Yeah.
I was wondering in your studies um, if you found that modern life and modern society are in and of itself contradictory to your studies as a Buddhist monk.
Um, I would say that modern life and the modern way of doing things is a little bit antithetical, or maybe a lot antithetical to a healthy way of living as a human being. And that if we are totally relying on the consumption of media or what is fed to us through politics or TV or our phone, we're not really going to be able to be satisfied in life, regardless of how materially or socially successful we have. That the current standards of ways of being in somewhere like modern America are not sufficient to satiate the deeper kind of humanistic needs that we as people have for relationships, for community, for learning how to take care of ourselves and to regulate our emotions and to heal and to grow. And so just that general side of society, I would say, is not completely conducive to the overall health of any human being. But it doesn't interfere with my Buddhist studies too much because I'm mainly supported by outside of America. I'm supported by Buddhist people in Vietnam or Thailand or Myanmar, and I spend a lot of time over in those countries. So I'm able to kind of live in a bubble or have access to resources, other ways of community that mainstream people wouldn't necessarily have access to. And I try to bring that to Western society through the community that I run and through doing events like this in a small way.
So then, just a quick follow-up. You think then it's possible for someone living in modern, obviously I'm American, modern American society, to be a part of society and you know um, have some kind of spirituality and peace of mind that way.
Yeah, it's completely possible. It's just a matter of we can't rely on it being fed to us or coming out and finding us. We really need to go in and look for something that brings a sense of depth and community and heart and intimacy to our lives. And you're not really going to find that just by swiping through TikTok or at a regular job or a regular career path or a regular education path. You might find it, but it's not. We don't have, our society isn't built, for example, to put people in a position where it's readily accessible to do good deeds, to do acts of generosity, to volunteer, to help disadvantaged kids, to help elderly people who need support. Our society kind of commodifies those avenues for us to do good deeds. And one of the most important things that we need to be a spiritual person or a healthy person or to heal or to start untangling the overcomplicated, stressful concoctions, machinations of our self fixation. One of the most direct ways to untangle that and to deal with that is by being generous and doing good deeds and helping other people, for example. And our society is not set up to give you accessible avenues or even to tell you about that, to do good deeds, to be generous, to help. So you have to kind of look, you have to find your lane in which to do good deeds and to help. And so for me, that meant becoming a monk. For some people here, it may maybe Googling local soup kitchen or ways to volunteer, in my area, in my city, whatever it is for you, and finding that lane to do good deeds. And for some people, it's, practicing meditation. It's joining a community. It's trying to find relationships with people who are, find a relationship with a Buddhist monk, or connect with resources about Buddhism or meditation or some kind of philosophy that enables and empowers you to live a more skillful life. Because it's not about Buddhism. It's about being a good person. It's about doing good deeds. It's about finding the truth in this present moment through what you have already, and finding the ways to heal and the ways to live your life skillfully and take steps back from those unskillful ways more and more. And so that's what Buddhism helps me to do. That's why I became a monk.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go now to Benny. Benny, you have a question?
Yep. Hello. So, how updated are you with pop culture and technology? Because obviously you're using Reddit and YouTube. So, do you like watch Netflix or go to the cinema?
Sure. I mean, I don't watch Netflix, but I know about I know about YouTube. I use YouTube, and I know about pop culture and a lot of different things like that. So I'm pretty plugged in for most things, politically, socially, entertainment wise, for a lot of things. I'm pretty plugged in, and I take being plugged in and connecting with people who might be on a very different cultural or way of living wavelength from me as a way where I can empathize and interact in a way that they understand, to support them to live more skillful lives, to emphasize doing good, being good, and maybe even, being mindful, being in the present moment, and letting go of whatever people happen to be stuck on or hanging on to. You have to know how to communicate if you want to help people. And if you don't know what people are on, it's very difficult to communicate with them in a way that they relate to and empathize with. Okay. Thank you, Benny.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go now to I'm at work.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, forgive me if I have just like a way too novice understanding of these things, but in attempting to kind of like merge um, Taoism of this like cyclical uh, nature of things, and that being kind of the way. Um, I'm criticized by people sometimes for having what they say is like kind of a passive stance on global issues, like just kind of the way the world is right now. But the way that I see it is that, there's not really a whole lot each of us individually can do. So, from a Buddhist perspective, is it just that we're trying to nudge our karma, our momentum collectively in the right direction where we can actually make a difference in, the way that humans globally like function and behave? Just wanted to get your insight on that and let me know if I need to clarify anything.
It's pretty clear. So, whatever happens in the world, it comes down to you. It comes back to you. You don't exist without the world, and especially for you, the world doesn't exist without you. Okay? So, there's this kind of direct interrelationship between you right here, right now, and the entirety of the world, and the entirety of the world and you right now. So if you're not interested in solving problems, then you're not interested in solving problems. And if you're not interested in solving big problems, then you're not. And that's you. You don't need to overthink that or overcomplicate that. That's on you. Um, but when it comes to our ability to interact in the world that leads to a skillful result or an unskillful result, these concerns about the climate crisis, these concerns about the world as a whole, and how they relate to your daily activities and daily actions are profound in how they affect the world and your actions lead to more collective actions affecting the world in the way that you imagine it needs to be affected. But really, it's just about us making those actions, and that's what leads to it. People like you being more skillful in the way that you act and reducing your carbon footprint leads to the result that is a big, massive result that you're referencing, that is difficult, or that you won't have an impact on. It's you who's going to impact it. It's nobody else, and it's us together making that decision. But even more poignantly than that, and certainly relevant to anyone and everyone, is taking things that are based in mindless consumption and desire-based consumption, just animalistic habit and activities, and turning them into a way to be mindful and practice virtue and practice skillful living. So considering the effect that meat eating has on the animals that are killed, tortured, raped, I mean, the worst conditions that you can imagine, I highly recommend a movie called Okja. It's a very strong teaching movie about this horrible conditions that animals face and why it's so wrong that we en masse enslave and torture and holocaust animals for our consumption. What we can take as something that's this mindless animalistic consumption, that you go to the grocery store and you're just looking for things that taste good and that you want to eat like some kind of animal. You take that and you do that mindlessly. You take that and you add in this concern of ethics or virtue or how your actions affect others. It's how your actions affect others. It's not about anyone else. It's about your actions and how they affect others. And then that activity that's animalistic, mindless consumption becomes a moment by moment process of you considering how you can act skillfully in the world and how your actions either bring about a positive effect or a negative effect. So going to the grocery store goes from being a idiocracy clip to a moment of reflection, introspection, contemplation, consideration, and sincerity to be an ethical and good person, and to take care not only of yourself, but to take care of the entire world. And this puts us into a place of mindfulness. This puts us into a place of being aware of the present moment as it is happening right here and right now. And this is a really important thing that all of us should do.
Thank you. I appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, thank you for your question. So let's go now to Night Unfolds. You have a question?
Hello. Yeah, hi. Actually, I wanted to know how can we find our calling through spirituality? If you can throw some light on that.
Okay, how can we find our calling through spirituality? Well, you have to be willing to try things. If you get a sniff of something, or if someone invites you to something, and it is different, it is outside the spectrum of what you know about. If you know about something, if a Mormon comes and knocks on your door, a Jehovah's Witness or something like that, and says, hey, look, this is the Book of Mormon, you kind of know about that. You're not really confused about that, or in a different culture is going to be a different thing. You know about that, so you can kind of say, okay, I'm not interested. I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to go back to my TikTok or my YouTube or what have you. But if someone invites you, or you hear about something, or you get a whiff of something that you really don't know about, and there's an invitation or there's an interest that comes from your side, you need to be willing to step out of your comfort zone of what you know and to try and to experience and to investigate whatever that might be. That topic, that subject, that experience, that activity, to step out of your comfort zone and kind of try something out. And in that way, you're going to really learn about yourself, and you're going to learn about what things that you don't know about can offer you. And if you have never really dipped into introspection or meditation or contemplation or something like Buddhism, which is a unique kind of religion and philosophy in the world. It's quite unique. You should take a look into it. And in that way, you can learn about something that you don't know about, and you can shine bright. You can shine some light, some awareness on that ignorance about a certain thing. And in this way, you can know kind of how you can use that or how you can, not use that. All right. Thank you, Night Unfolds. So we'll go now to XAA and John.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you have a question?
What is opinion on school? What is your opinion on school?
What is my opinion on school?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, XAA. So, whatever situation we find ourselves in, it doesn't really matter. We need to try to use any and every situation to do good, to be aware of the present moment, to investigate the body, the experience that we're having right now. School in general, it's good that we can learn and we can grow. But each school is going to be different. Each teacher is going to be different. Each classroom is going to be different. And we're not always going to find ourselves in an ideal situation or with the ideal person. So we need to learn how to use any activity, any experience, any moment as a opportunity to investigate and to grow on our own terms. And this is something that is much easier said than done. But if we can try to let go of our reactivity about situations, then we can come to this place of investigating the moment by moment arising and passing away of the experience of the body and the experience of the mind. Okay, so that's one way to approach it. So we'll go now to Adler Ewell. You have a question, Adler?
Thank you so much for having me. So I have two questions. The first question is, as somebody who is a non-Buddhist and is drawn towards the ideology and the teachings of the great Buddha, um, what books would you recommend that I read so I get to understand Buddhism better, and not from a meditation point of view per se, but rather from a ideology and learning point of view? And second question is, Buddhism as a religion, does it have the concept of a god? And if it does, could
Okay, I'll
you
stop you right there.
please? Yeah.
In Buddhism, we don't have a god.
All right.
And the book recommendation for this to learn a little bit more about Buddhism as a philosophy and as a religious kind of structure, it's a book called What the Buddha Taught. The book is called What the Buddha Taught. And I'm going to kind of put together a compilation of resources that I'll share in the comments, but I don't want to slow down too much. What the Buddha Taught. And you can find that on Amazon, or certainly you can find it for free online. And that's a good introduction for if you want to learn more about the religious philosophy, a little bit about the history of Buddhism, the book called What the Buddha Taught. And if you want to know more about the energy, the intentionality, the practical modern philosophy of Buddhism, there's a book called No Mud, No Lotus: The Art of Transforming Suffering. No Mud, No Lotus: The Art of Transforming Suffering. And that book can be gotten on Amazon, and I highly recommend it. Okay? So let's go now to Maleficent. You have a question?
Yeah, I got a question. How are you doing?
Good.
So I believe a lot in Stoicism. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
It's okay, so you know what it is. So my question is, what are some characteristics of Buddhist monks as far as dealing with their emotional reactions to other people's behavior, and if you can go over some aspects of rational thinking from a Buddhist perspective, and how would it relate to Stoicism?
Well, I'm not I'm not really involved in Stoic philosophy. I'm not invested in Marcus Aurelius or the practice
Right.
of Stoicism. But what I can tell you is that there are many deep parallels between Buddhist thought and Stoic thought. And Buddhism is, by and large, the more robust, comprehensive, and alive philosophy, uh, comparing it to Stoicism. So I oftentimes tell to people, if you are a Stoic and you're quite interested in Stoicism and like the deeper mental aspects and way of approaching experience that Stoicism points to and represents, you should certainly investigate Buddhism. You should certainly you try to look into it, try to know about it. I couldn't say exactly what book would be the most appropriate starting point for that Stoic perspective. If you Google Stoic Buddhism, you'll probably find something. But in Buddhism, this is a deep down teaching. This is the basic premise. Do good deeds, practice mindfulness and detachment. The foundation and what I would want anyone who's here to get from this talk, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your mindset is, right? The one message that I would want people to understand from this talk and tell to the kids, tell to everybody, whoever it is that through the power of doing good deeds, we deal with our suffering. It's not about making money. It's not about getting power. It's not about status. It's not about appearance. It's not about whatever you get. If you want to deal with your suffering, it's through the power of doing good deeds, acts of generosity, acts and from an intention of helping other people. We unravel this self-stuckness and attachment and misery and constant strong habit of being unskillful and making negative choices all the time. Okay. How do you do that? Be generous. Do acts of generosity. Do good deeds. And this just isn't emphasized or taught in our schools or in our society at large. You know, the biggest donators and the biggest quote unquote generous people in our society are ultra wealthy people who donate because it's better than throwing the money away. They give money to nonprofits because otherwise they just have to give it to the government or whatever. The power of doing good deeds gives us freedom, and it calms and it settles and it unravels that selfishness and that misery and depression and anxiety. One of the best and most integral and most direct and simple things you can do to deal with your suffering is do good deeds. Okay, and there's a lot of different ways to go about that, but at the heart of it, try to be helpful, try to act from this intentionality of helping and be generous. Okay, so that's the foundation. Okay, simplest way to say the foundation. Building upon that, once you get into the way of doing good deeds, you kind of have a platform. So I kind of say that the Buddhist path, the Buddhist enlightenment, the Buddhist pyramid, so to speak, is built on a platform of doing good deeds, of overall skillful living. If you are a person who is involved in overall skillful living and doing good deeds, whether it pertains to the body or the mind, you have a platform on which to live your life and develop. Whereas a person who is totally immersed in only video games, only desire, only attachment, only fear, just kind of running around like an animal, eating, sleeping, desiring sex all the time, and that's how they live their lives, then there's not really a platform on which to develop. So how do you get that platform? Start doing good deeds, start being generous. Once you have that platform, at this point, you can start to develop mindfulness. And this isn't Mick mindfulness, okay? This isn't the mindfulness that is being sold to you by some meditation app or some person who's selling a program, whatever. But this is a real mindfulness of being aware of what's happening right now. And that's that's an earthquake, that's a comet, that's a waterfall. Like, what's happening right now is the home, the place of birth and death. It's not conceptual, it's not intellectual, it's not something that you can use to be more productive or go into a mindfulness chamber at the Amazon warehouse and now you can be more productive to move packages. But it's to be aware of what's happening right now and to practice that. That's what meditation is about. Okay? Practice being here in the present, being aware of the present moment bodily sensations. Be aware and be with the breath at the present moment. Okay? That mindfulness, you start to develop concentration and relaxation, which solves a lot of problems that we have. We can't concentrate, so we can't really make sharp, skillful decisions in terms of our minds and our lives, and so we find ourselves in the same habit and thought patterns all the times. We basically don't go anywhere. We don't have a sharpness to us. So we develop concentration, also relaxation. We're able to let go, we're able to release, we're able to relax, and so we're more able to heal and to recuperate and then do what we need to do. Now, as those two sides of concentration and relaxation come together at the top, all right, that mindfulness pyramid is built on this platform of doing good deeds or being a good person, doing skillful activities, refraining from less unskillful activities. The tippy top, the point of that pyramid is detachment or insight. Okay, the practice of detachment. That is at the base, at the core of it, is a willingness to let go. A willingness to let go of what you desire, what you fear, whatever you get caught up in at this present moment. Right? Let's say you're focusing on the breath and then you have a thought. You're willing to let it go rather than chase it and react to it or even respond to it. You're willing to let it go. So this is detachment. This is the practice of detachment. And this state of detachment relates to insight. So it's just like a scientist. If you are a scientist and you're trying to do an experiment, but you are acting from a presupposition, a pre-assumption, and not only that, but you have a particular effect or a particular goal that you're trying to get out of that experiment, you're not going to be an effective scientist. You're not going to be able to be aware of the variables, let alone control them. Okay? With detachment, we call it Vipassana meditation. It basically means special seeing, seeing with detachment. In that way, you can start to see into reality itself, the nature of the mind, the nature of the body, rather than the content of the body or the content of the mind and your constant reactivity towards it. So this is what Buddhism, this is what kind of the path of Buddhism is about. Okay, Maleficent? Hopefully that's
Yes.
stoic enough for you.
That was yeah, that was pretty intense. And I pretty much understand the part where it's not on your action, it's on your reaction, and everything you went into is pretty deep. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. So we have gotten through this current round of questioning. I see we have 23 people with their hands raised, and I'm sure we have a lot of comments, a lot of questions in the comments that I have not answered yet. So please bear with me as we continue through this live Q&A and this event, Ask Anything to a Buddhist Monk. I do want to remind people that I am also live on YouTube, so if you would like to see me, you can go to the comments of this live talk right now. Go to the comments page and sort by new, and you will find the link to my live stream, to me on YouTube, so you can see me and watch me that way. So I'm not a disembodied voice completely. If you'd like to take a closer look at what's going on here. Okay, so anyone who's new, I'm Bhante Warapanyo. I'm a 29-year-old American Buddhist monk. I've been a monk for 4 years. I've been a meditator and a Buddhist for about 10 years. And I got into meditation and Buddhism as a way to deal with my suffering, because I had a lot of suffering and I wanted to deal with it. I wanted to solve it, and that led me to becoming a monk, becoming a Buddhist, and really investigating Buddhism. I practice Buddhism from a philosophical and way of life perspective. I don't have strong religious ideals or beliefs that I hang on to. And even for Buddhists, the Buddha is just like an original philosopher who attained enlightenment. That's our understanding of the Buddha. The Buddha is not a god or anything like that. It's like a teacher. Okay. So before we go to the people whose hands are raised, I would like to answer some of the questions that are coming through on the comments. And also for anyone who's here and very interested but might not stick around, I do have a Discord server and a community space online if you're interested to practice meditation with a community or learn more about Buddhism moving forward, meditation moving forward. So you can leave a comment asking for a link to that if you're interested. So Grandmaster G, I hope you're still here. I don't know if you are, but yours is the top comment here on Reddit. Grandmaster G says, bro, I am stressed all of the time. My dad died not so long ago, which was so stressful, and now my stress tolerance is so low. I feel that my tolerance has permanently been lowered, and I don't know how to get it back. Do you have any ideas or philosophies for me to consider? Well, firstly, I'm sorry for your loss. Something to be aware of is that your dad isn't gone. What made your dad was never and is not bones and blood and tendons and muscle. Your dad is a continuation. You are a continuation of your dad. Your dad is a continuation of your granddad. The real power and impact that your dad brought to the world and brings to the world is not separate from you, and is certainly not separate from all of the actions, the care, the consideration, the way of being that your dad brought into the world and was with you. So it's really important that we remember that, and it's like strangely deeply true. Our loved ones do not die in the way that we imagine them to die. It just simply doesn't work like that. The reason that we love our parents or a loved one or a grandparent was never their physical body. It was their heart, their sincerity, their intention, their care, their compassion, their love that they offered to us, and that doesn't disappear just because their body passes away. It's more of a changing form. As a great Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh says, a cloud never dies. And in this way, there is really no birth or death. It's just a changing of form. When it comes to stress and when it comes to loss and when it comes to fear and this anxiety and these intense kind of emotional states that we experience as human beings, I find that a willingness to face and be with that suffering and not feel that you need to get rid of that or that you need to change that is really, really essential. That it's okay to feel what you're feeling. It's okay to be with stress. And that stress, that suffering, that fear is calling out for our attention. It needs our attention. It needs our care. It needs our open heart. Through looking and facing our stress rather than waiting for it to go away or trying to get rid of it, we can understand it. We can understand why that stress is coming up in a very, very subtle way, not through our thinking, but through our experience. We can develop our understanding. So being willing to face that suffering and not waiting for it to go away. I oftentimes tell people that loss is an invitation for intimacy with the person that we lost, that we love. Loss is an invitation. It's not a goodbye. That feeling of loss, that emotion is an invitation for us to be with that person, and to touch them and to know them even more deeply and even more fully. That's my understanding about it. Okay, Grandmaster G, and don't hesitate to send me a message sometime if you ever need to talk or have a call. You're very welcome, and I'd be happy to talk with you and offer you anything that I can. All right. So we will continue answering some questions. Sorting by the best ones, according to Reddit. Anxious Flatworm says there was a little boy who tried to ask a question, but you couldn't hear him. I don't know what their question was, but your question is, how do you separate feelings of anger at individuals from feelings of anger at the injustice they perpetrate? Well, the anger is something that you need to transform and you need to face. The anxiety is something that only you can really transform that. Only you can really face that. So being anxious about anxiety or being angry at the anger or being angry at that situation or that person or that action is not really going to serve you. What's going to serve you is you facing, being with that anger, facing it inside yourself. So there's a good teaching whenever you feel a strong, powerful emotion come up, stop. Especially when it's something like anger. Stop and turn the mind around and face that anger, that feeling in your body. Face that experience, be with that, look at that, touch that as deeply as you can in the body. And this can be a really powerful way to transform it and to use it, right? Because it's not that we want to completely get rid of anger or completely get rid of anxiety, because we don't need to get rid of it. It's an energy. It's a part of ourselves that needs to be faced and experienced. But in general, anger, righteous anger, or like justified anger, it's just a suffering. It's just something that you're burning yourself with. When you notice that you're angry, take a step back and face that experience in your body. Okay? That's what I recommend. Okay. We have some questions over on the YouTube live that I haven't looked at. There are many women monks, many female monks. Most of the monks that I know are women. I became a monk in Thailand. Any tips for learning communication skills like yours? Practice connecting with people and talking with people. And when you are sincere and talking about something that is coming from a good intention and that you have experience with, you're going to be able to talk, but you also need to practice. I've talked a lot, so I get skillful at talking. Okay, Glow says, will I have to stop the activities I do outside to fully start following Buddhism? I don't want to get caught unprepared by my oppositions. No, you don't need to get caught unprepared by your ops to start following Buddhism. Starting to follow Buddhism is really about beginning to take an interest into meditation. It's about beginning to take an interest into Buddhist teachings. And I mean, it's kind of, I feel self-serving when I say this, but if you have a spark or an interest for yourself to get into Buddhism, if you come across a Buddhist monk, bother that person. Send a message to that person. Try to get in contact with that person. Try to follow that person, or someone who seems to be experienced in Buddhism, but especially a monk. That's your access point. As human beings, there's nothing better than another human being who we energize with or empathize with or feel a sense of trust with, to ask them what they can recommend. there's no better person to ask about running shoes than a jogger or a runner. So if you come across someone who you have access to, send them a message, reach out to them, ask them how you can contact them further. And that's an access point for you following through with that intention that, oh, I actually do want to know about Buddhism. I actually do want to know about meditation. Okay. And there's a lot of great resources out there that don't have anything to do with me, but I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So I know about these resources, well, you don't connect with me and my talking about Buddhism, but maybe there's something you're interested in. Okay. You can try out this teacher or that teacher, all from from what I can recommend. And that's a really valuable access point. But the biggest thing is just like the biggest thing with riding your bike, right? Learning how to ride a bike. If you want to ride a bike, the biggest barrier is your intention that, oh, I actually want to learn how to ride a bike. Because if you don't have that intention, you're going to give up immediately because you don't know how to ride a bike. You don't know about Buddhism. You don't know about meditation, period. So when you first try, going back to the bike analogy, when you first try to ride a bike, what's going to happen? You're going to fall off. And you can either give up and never learn how to ride a bike, or you can fall off the bike and say, geez, Louis, I want to learn how to ride a bike. So you get back on. It's the same with meditation. It's the same with something like learning about Buddhist philosophy or Buddhist meditation, Buddhist way of life. And I know that as Western people or American people, we tend to be very anti-religion. But the fact of the matter is that Buddhism is not a religion in the way that Christianity is a religion, period, or Islam is a religion, period. It's not the same thing. Compared to those, Buddhism is like a intensive school of philosophy that has somehow thrived and existed since ancient India and has a large, robust, thriving class of philosopher monks that are maintaining the tradition, not only through academics and philosophy, but through the practice, the application of that philosophy. So it's something totally different from what we know of as religion, as Christianity or Islam or what have you. So it's just like riding a bike. The biggest barrier is your intentionality that you actually do want to learn about it. And if you do actually want to learn about it, then you can. You can learn how to ride a bike, but it's a matter of showing up and trying. And definitely, from my perspective, if you're coming across a Buddhist monk and you know how to send them a message or contact them or whatever, then that's your point of asking questions, try to find some resources. Is there a talk I can listen to? Is there a book I can read? Whatever, ask them and try to get, that's a decent enough starting point. Okay. So that was the YouTube. I'm going to answer a few more questions on YouTube, and then we'll go back to bringing people up to stage to ask a question with their voice. And you can also find the link to the YouTube live in the comments. If you sort the comments by new, you'll find it if you want to see the monk that's talking to you. Okay, and then we'll go back to the people who want to ask questions with their voice. So what's my opinion on Islam? I don't really have an opinion about it, but any other religion, if it works for you, if you're happy, if you're peaceful, if it supports you to do good deeds and develop, great, good, wonderful. What are your views on veganism and Buddhist and animal suffering due to dairy and meat consumption? We're not all going to be vegan. We're not all going to be vegetarian. That's just the case, but we all can reduce our meat consumption. We all can reduce our milk consumption. We all can try alternatives. We can all try to go to vegetarian restaurants, so at least we can experience that vegetarian food can be wonderful and delicious. And we can recognize, regardless of what our choice is, recognize and remember that the animal agriculture industry and the meat industry and the dairy industry is dark, dark stuff. It's not pleasant. It's not something you want your kids to be around. And it's not really something that you want to fetishize, okay? Taking a step back from fetishizing meat eating and fetishizing dairy is a good idea for sure. Okay. And try to go to a vegetarian restaurant when you go out, find out the vegetarian food is very delicious, and then, try to make some vegetarian meals or reduce meat consumption. Stop fetishizing it. Okay. Does Buddhism focus on any specific political movement? Buddhism emphasizes nonviolence. Okay, so that tends to lean to particular political movements, whatever they might be. Nonviolence and compassion. There's no justified or righteous hate in Buddhism. There's no justification for it. Mary Lena says, "What is the Buddhist response to New Age spirituality?" Just continue what we're doing, and hopefully some of those people who might get caught up in quote unquote New Age spirituality will come across Buddhist teachings and get some value from them. Because Buddhism really is like a gold standard for meditation. And even the most well-known secular mindfulness or secular meditation teachers in the West, in America, most of them are coming from a Buddhist background. Most of them teach meditation that's rooted in the Buddhist teaching of meditation, the Buddhist methodology. I've lived most of my life as a monk in the country Myanmar, the country Burma, but I became a monk in Thailand. What do I advise to improve self-love? Be your own best friend. Talk to yourself in that way. Approach yourself in that way. And when you noticed a negative quality of mind coming up, like a self-abusive quality of mind come up, put your hand on your own shoulder, that negative quality of mind shoulder, and say, hey, wait a minute. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know who you think you are. I don't know what you think we're doing here, but this ain't that. This ain't it, Chief. And just, say, I'm not going to bully myself. I'm not going to beat up myself. I'm going to be my own best friend. I'm going to love myself regardless. I'm going to take care of myself without excuses and take those steps to love yourself and take care of yourself. There is a Buddhist form of meditation that focuses on loving kindness, developing loving kindness. And if self-hate is something that you have major problems with, then I would highly recommend that you try out some of these things that we would call loving kindness meditation. And particularly, there's a really powerful benefit if you're a person who has a lot of self-hatred and self-animosity. There's a really powerful benefit from contacting and facing and listening to someone who's turned that absolutely on their head. So listening to someone who has generated a great power of loving friendliness and loving kindness towards themselves and also towards others, listening to a talk from someone like that is really empowering, and kind of turns that proclivity towards self-abuse and the lack of an ability to detach from that and like say I'm not in for that, I don't believe in that, and I'm going to switch it. It really empowers that ability to do that. So I would highly recommend that you do look into some loving kindness meditation, and I will post a link to that in the comments of this live talk. Okay, so, and also on my Reddit profile, there are a lot of links for guided meditations and book recommendations and the Discord community that I run, and links to great talks and things like that. So if you are looking for more support in this stuff, please do look at that. But right now, if you sort the comments by new, you will find a resource list, a sincere, good resource list for loving kindness meditation and some recommended teachers and things like that, okay? And I when I say that, it sounds kind of vague. It sounds like I'm like promoting some people or some like general ideas or whatever. But if you look at those links, like the people that I'm pointing to are right on the dot, like right on the line of, heavy, high level stuff. Like there's nothing vague or general or selling a program about it. I think a lot of people who come from a westernized background, when someone says, "Hey, check out this meditation teacher, check out this or check out that," you immediately kind of fall back onto, okay, this someone's trying to sell me something, or either this guy is trying to sell me something, or the person that he's appointing me to is trying to sell me something. But this is on a whole nother there's a whole nother level than that. Like these are saints. I'm pointing you towards saintly people. And if the only people you've contacted in your life up to now are generally nebulous, negative, or just okay, or like really nice, but they're not empowered nice, they're not like powerfully compassionate and loving. When you see and listen to someone like that, and open up to someone like that and see that these people exist, it really does help. It really is empowering. So I recommend it. Okay. So let's bring some more people up to ask questions with their voice. And for the people who are here and listening, I would request that if you could go to the comments and sort by new, and when you see the resource list that I posted, if you could upvote that so that people who are looking at the talk can easily see that resource list and have access to it, I would appreciate that. Okay. So we're now going to bring up Reddito Marcato, Intense Sense, Aditi Grow.
Hello, Monk.
And Chemical, and Swizzle, and Finesse. Bring up. Okay, so who's this? Who's speaking now?
Oh, this is Reddit to Marcos. I thought it was my turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, yes. I work at a very large tech company, and I do a lot of mindfulness, Dzogchen type of work there and help people. I do feel a lot of conflict often about the two sides of the coin, but I also think this is where I should be. So any advice on squaring off some of that conflict? Thank you.
I'm not sure I understand. You were saying that you have some conflict with people at your work?
Oh no, I mean, as you mentioned, a lot of the stuff out in the world can be quite contradicting. And I work at a big tech company that often is perceived in the media as not necessarily a good place to be. But from inside, we know there's a lot of good people there. And I do mindfulness work with some of these people, and I lead some groups. But I often find myself conflicted about the place itself and how it's perceived. I am not also ready to become a monk or move on to different things. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice for someone who feels like they're in the right position, but also feels some conflict around some of the issues that come up.
Yeah, try to emphasize detaching from those outside issues and outside concerns. And that's not to reject them or not to ignore them, but kind of to see them as none of your business. And as you see them as none of your business, you can prioritize and hone in on what your business is. And that is helping people, that is doing good deeds and doing what you need to do to help in that situation. That's what I recommend, okay? That ability to detach, not reject. Detachment is not rejection, but to see that which is not really your business and is burdening you as not your business, as nothing to do with you, as something to be uninvolved with, even as it may be taking place. And, if you long term find yourself in conditions that are unsuitable and not supportive to your mind and your life, then you can move away from them. But we should never move away from them in terms of rejecting. We should move away from them in terms of recognizing that they are what they are and making the decision from your own place, your own intention, not reacting to that, but making a decision fully aware of what's going on, but not attached to what's going on, because really you can't control it anyway. So what you can control, what you can be involved with, is your intention and your willingness to follow through with your intention to do good deeds, to try and help, to bring benefit.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so let's go to Aditi.
Okay, so I've noticed a little bit of a contradiction in what I've heard about Buddhism, and I think there might be something I misunderstood, and I'm trying to see that. So you're talking about this detachment from so the sense of detachment. And then you're also talking about turning around and facing the experiences, especially the negative ones. I think that sounds a little bit like a contradiction. I think I misunderstood. Like if you are detached and facing those experiences at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Aditi. So it's simple. If we can see clearly, and it's not easy to see clearly, most of the times we're seeing through a cloud of our desire, our fear, our anxiety, our worry, whatever it might be. But if we can see clearly, then we can see that the mind can be discerned from the body. That is, that our awareness can be discerned from the reactivity to whatever is happening, or our awareness can be discerned from what's happening. So this is seeing with detachment. This is that even though your foot hurts, you're not screaming. Even though someone is poking your belly, you're not falling into a great rage. So we can only see clearly, we can only discern this quality of mind, this ability of mind to be detached, to be aware but not reacting, by facing what's happening right now, by being willing to be with what's happening right now. And so this is the practice of seeing with detachment. But you can't see with detachment, you can't see the truth of the mind or the reality of the mind unless you're really willing to look at the mind itself, unless you're really willing to be with what's happening right now, to face it. Through facing it, you can begin to understand what you're facing. And you might not understand it on this deep level of, okay, I can experience my awareness does not necessarily need to react to what I'm experiencing. I'm aware, and just because someone is poking my belly doesn't mean that I need to be angry. You don't necessarily need to get that level of understanding from it, but by facing what is happening right now, the direct, alive experience, not our ideas about it, not our thoughts about it, not our judgments about it, not the past or the future about it, but facing what is happening right now, we can understand it more deeply. And a lot of our understanding is not based in thinking or thought. Most of our understanding is based through experience. Okay? Imagine a basketball player that has studied basketball on tape or reading about basketball for 20 years. You think they're going to be competitive? They're going to flounder on the court, whatever court they go to. So we need to learn how to detach from this importance that we give to our thinking. Thinking is not, even if you're a Christian or a Muslim person, right? The realm of God is not in thinking. The profundity of Allah or God or whoever it may be, the profundity of the Buddha, in my case, it does not lie in thinking. It does not it does not lie in the written word. It's deeper than that. And so too is our wisdom, our ability to know deeply does not rely on words or thinking. So this is seeing with detachment. Okay, and to see with detachment, we have to be willing to face what's happening right now. Only then can we be willing to let go of what's happening right now.
This was very useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, intense sense. You have a question?
Yes, hello, thank you. I had a question, yes, about how do I deal with people that I love, but at the same time, maybe in a way I end up feeling irritated by those people when they talk about negative past experiences, or they bring back like bad memories. I just feel like either get really emotional or easily annoyed by those kind of things. And I always feel bad when the person notices, because like I said, I do love those people and I want to be supportive, and I just wish I had more patience. And I just wonder, like, what is your view on it, or does Buddhism speak about how to deal with those kind of things?
Can you reiterate it? Maybe clarify it a little bit more?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know, it's really hard to speak English for me, but
It's okay,
I
just
was
simple. Try to as simple as possible.
yeah, I guess like where to kind of suppress your own issues and find the patience and to give time and energy to those around you, because I feel like I'm overwhelmed by like my own stuff, so I can't be that supportive person that I want to be.
So you need to be willing to do without limiting yourself, or setting limits for yourself. And the effect is not so important. It's your intention. It's you acting from this intention to help, to bring benefit. Okay, if you're not perfect at it, join the club. This isn't a perfect Q&A. I hope it would be nice, right? But it's not. So it's acting from this intention to help, to bring benefit. And after we act with our consideration, with our sincerity, we have to end. You are not someone else. We cannot appropriate another person's suffering. We cannot take that on. We cannot act as if that is our suffering, because it's not. And if we do over empathize, we become quickly burnt out and we become disempowered. Okay. Now, there is a system of compassionate action that a former teacher of mine, or one of the first places I stayed at that I got my initial training in Buddhism and meditation, put together. And this is called the grace system. How to bring compassion into your interactions with others. And this is a system that is meant to allow you to act compassionately while still maintaining your own resiliency, your own ability to heal and rest, and continue acting this way. So the grace model has 5 elements. First is gathering attention. So you're going into this situation where you want to make a compassionate action. You want to live in this way. Okay, so this grace model has 5 elements. Number 1, G, gathering attention. That means that you are focusing, grounding, and coming to your balance point. Pause, breathe in, give yourself time to get grounded. Be present. Invite yourself in to be with the body. Okay? You can use this moment of gathering your attention to just settle and calm and relax and be there in the present. Okay? So, first, gather your intention. Second, recall your intention. Why are you here? Why are you doing this? What is the reason that you're interacting with this person or in this situation? You're not selling something, right? You're here to make a compassionate action. So first, gather your attention, get grounded. 2, recall your intention, which is the resource of your motivation. Remember what your life is really about. Remember why you want to do this. And that's should be to act with integrity, to act with wholeheartedness, to help, to bring benefit. Okay, so this is a touching into your intention. 3, attune to yourself and to the other. First, check in with yourself. Okay, this is before you even make an action or you do something, you engage in a certain way, right? You attune to yourself and to others. So notice where you're at. Notice what state you're in right now, and then also take a look and look at that person's state. All right. And the good thing about this is that you're also setting kind of where you are and where they are. So this is you're checking in on what's actually going on rather than just stumbling into, this tangled up ball of you and the other person, not knowing where you began and the other person ends. So gather your attention, get grounded, come back to your breath, remember your intention, recall your intention, okay, why you're doing this, then attune to self and other, know where you are, then know where the other person is. Then consider what will serve. Consider what you can do in this situation to help, to bring benefit, to heal for that person in that case. Okay, consider what will serve. Right? Finally, the engaging. The last part is the engaging, and with it comes the ending. So engaging, ethical enactment, taking the step into doing good deeds or acting out of this place of compassion, of care, to help, to bring benefit, and then to end, to finish. All right, you act and then you end. So this is the grace model. And there's an article on the Huffington Post that I will now leave in the comments, or actually I'll add it to the main comment, the resource post. That's the top comment of this post. And please, if you're here, please do update that so that people can come across it easily, people who are here. This is a list of resources moving forward if you want to get more involved in this stuff. Grace model for compassionate action. And this is really accessible and good reading, okay? I'm going to post the link, update that. I'm going to update that. All right, Intense, I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much for the detailed response. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go now to Chemical. You have a question?
Hi, yes. In my pursuit to reduce negative experience, I've gone down the route of asking lots of existential questions. I've explored Jainism, I've done a couple of Vipassana retreats, but every time I come back to not feeling satisfied with what's the absolute truth per se. So, my question is, how can I still reduce negative experience, even if I don't have the answers to who am I?
Yeah, good question. So it's a simple answer, and this is maybe a little bit antithetical to what we usually imagine about when we have a problem. So a lot of people think when they have a problem, especially mental problems, the mind gets so concocted, so convoluted. That's where a lot of our deeper main problems come from that we deal with. Of course, the body is also very vulnerable. We think, okay, I have a problem, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have this general unsatisfiedness about my life. I need to focus on myself more. I need to get a VR headset. I need to get a computer. I need to travel, I need to do this, I need to find myself, I need to, etc., etc., etc. I need to go to a psychologist, I need to find a therapist, I need to talk about myself, I need to, etc., 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 right? We have a problem, we think we need to focus on ourselves more. What if the problem is we are continuously focusing on ourselves and we are just entirely wrapped up in this constant self-fixation, this constant tension, this constant attachment, this knot of self stuff, self-focus? What if that's the problem? So if it is, the solution is to be generous. Okay? The most simple way you can do it is, you give away some money or your possession or what have you, but the most profound way you can do it is by doing good deeds. That is to be generous with your body and with your mind. Okay, that is to volunteer, that is to offer your kindness, your compassion, your gentleness. Do good deeds and find the root in your life, not to focus more on yourself, but to give up more of yourself, to share more of yourself for the benefit of other beings. And if you do that, I think you'll quickly find that those convoluted knots of self fixation that are so burdensome quickly dissolve and untangle themselves quite naturally, just through the power not of finding the absolute truth or listening to 555 hertz or Sadhguru or whoever it is, or listening to me, Bhante Varapanyo, or whatever, but just by doing good deeds. I think one of the most wonderful things we can do, if you can find an avenue of doing good deeds that involves work with children, that's wonderful. A lot of kids need a lot of help and a lot of support and a lot of care. And if you can offer to them, that's a great way to do good deeds. All right?
Thanks. Helpful.
Yeah. All right, Finesse. Finesse D. You have a question?
Hello, yes. What do you think of psychedelics? Do you have any experiences with them?
All right, thank you. A lot of people have this question. So it's just like this. It's all about consistency, not intensity. Okay, it's about a way of living our lives. It's about a way of showing up day after day after day after day. Now, as far as psychedelics can be used as a medicine to inspire you to show up in life regularly in terms of doing good deeds, and getting into mindfulness and getting into meditation, etc., that inspiring factor, that as a medicine, sure, that can be helpful. That's good. But most people don't use it that way. Okay, it's just to have an experience. And maybe you have a good intention, but it's still just to have an experience, and it doesn't necessarily empower you to live a more skillful life overall. So, in that way, psychedelics are not essential. They're not to be pointed to, they're not really to be held up so high outside of a ideal condition, an ideal setting with a professional. Okay? And outside of that, it's the worship that we have about psychedelics, or the pedestal that we put psychedelics on, is for a very simple reason. Okay? And it's because it gives us a intense experience. And that's what we are predisposed to grabbing onto as the solution to our problems, right? We think it can't be a Toyota, it's got to be a Bugatti, right? Or we think that some big change in our lives is going to happen, some big moment, and that's what defines everything, or that's what changes everything. And that's the kind of the very nature of the problematic response to trauma as well. Only it's in the negative. And in psychedelics, you'll be thinking about the positive. Oh, I had this enlightenment experience, something like that. That's not the point. The point is not to have this intense experience. The point is to find a way of living skillfully, to find a community, to find a support structure, to live your life in a consistently skillful way. And that means to live your life in a way that is coming from a good intentionality, okay? To help, to bring benefit, to share, to give, to let go. And if you can live like this, if you can practice like this consistently, it's way better than any psychedelic. And if you don't have even an inkling of this way of living in your life already, then it's much less likely that a psychedelic can support you in any meaningful way outside of a medical clinical setting, which modern science is showing that there are medical uses for psychedelics in terms of therapy. And I fully support therapy and getting as much care as you can. Okay? Thank you, Finesse.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to hop over to the YouTube live stream. And just a reminder, for anyone who doesn't know, I am live on YouTube right now as well, if you'd like to see me. And there should be a link to the YouTube live stream in the top comment, or at least I will add that now. If you want to see me. And the resource list, if you go to the comments, you will see a resource list that is the top comment. This is a really great list for you to get into, for people to get into meditation as a philosophy, as a way of life. These are not religious. These are not religious recommendations. These are recommendations if you're looking to get the benefits of meditation teachings and Buddhist values that are non-religious. That's what these recommendations are pointing to. And this is a great list. This is a, if you're Jeff Bezos, this is the kind of people you're going to be bringing over, which is a nice thing about meditation and spirituality, or Buddhist spirituality, Buddhist meditation, is that the highest level people that are out there are very accessible for the most part. So we're going to go to the YouTube live stream to answer some questions from over there that have built up. How often do I shave my head? About every 3 days. Does this process of detachment and letting go get easier with time? How does a monastic lifestyle assist you in this? Well, it's a constant reminder. My robes and my bald head are a constant reminder of my intentionality to train the mind, to know about the truth, and to follow the Buddhist path. And just like with anything, if you put your will into it, if you follow through with your intentionality about it, then yeah, you're going to get better at it in time. That ability to let go and that ability to see without complete reactivity. Matthew says, thank you for doing this. I struggle terribly with anxiety and not feeling good enough. Any suggestions? The suggestion that a lot of people need to hear is to get involved. And the best that this talk can be is an invitation to get involved. And that's why I'm trying to emphasize sharing resources, because there's no answer, there's no idea, there's no belief, there's no pill, there's no experience that is going to solve your anxiety, that's going to solve your depression, that's going to solve your fear or your suffering. It's how you show up to your life moving forward. And in that way, this is an invitation, okay? We have a Discord server, all right? If you go to the comments here, there's a large list of resources, talks that you can listen to that are far more valuable and far more worthwhile to listen to than YouTube videos or movies or rap music or whatever it is, okay? If you can. If you can't, then you can't. And in that case, just try to be generous, try to do some good deeds. But outside of that, you need to try to get involved in doing good deeds, all right? And one of the most supportive things to do that is for sure being a part of a community, being around other people who share a similar intentionality and are working together to practice. That's one of the things that helped me the most. So how do you deal with that anxiety? How do you deal with that beating up of yourself? Get involved, follow through with some of these resources. And certainly understand that it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to be a person who deals with anxiety. It's okay to be a person that deals with depression. There's nothing wrong with you. There's no right justification for anyone to harm you or be mean to you. You deserve love, you deserve peace, and you can have it. It's just a way, it's how you show up to your life at this moment and these moments moving forward. And you can change your mind. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this movie, but there's a movie called A Knight's Tale. I'm pretty sure that's what this movie is called. A Knight's Tale. Yes, with Heath Ledger. Okay. And the premise of this movie is that there's this, it's in like the feudal times or whatever. It's in the time of knights and kings and feudal lords and things like that in England or whatever. And this one character who Heath Ledger plays is a low-born person, and his father is a low-born person as well. His father is like a blind seamstress, a blind tailor. Okay. And this young man, Heath Ledger, is a kind of a crafty individual who's skillful at armed fighting, fighting as a knight and doing jousting. But because his stars are low, because he's low born, he can't really compete at a high level. He can't have that status or that position to be in a certain state. A certain state of status or, like just to be in heaven. He has a certain level, certain stars that he's born with, that he's predetermined to have, and that's what he's going to have throughout his whole life. But through a lot of skillful actions, through a lot of intentionality, through a lot of follow through, and cooperating with other people who had a similar intention to develop and to get what they needed, to take care of the situation as best they could, to develop in advance, all right? Cooperating with those people. Eventually they kind of concocted this situation where they got him into to like take a knight's name, or they made a new royal lineage, and they kind of gave that to him and Heath Ledger, this character. And eventually he found himself to be in that royal position. And he was skillful through his training and through his practice and his trial and error and his efforts and failure. Once that chance came about, he found himself to be in this higher position, in this like royal competition for jousting or armor fighting and all this. And so there's this point in the movie where he goes back to visit his father, who he left quite a long time ago, to try and change his situation and try to develop. He was born into poverty. And there's this moment when he's with his father, and he's introduced by this other person that this is Lord so and so, or this regal person, this person of status. And then his father's blind, so he can't see him yet. And then the son comes in and holds his father and says, "Hey, it's me. I changed my stars. I changed my position. I did the work, and I found myself in a different way." And I really like that, because what it represents, even though it's a little bit convoluted, is that we can change the state and the situation that we find ourselves in. But it takes a certain degree of wisdom and to put down our shallow thinking to make that skillful decision to get involved with our lives. If we don't take a step to get involved with our lives and start making skillful decisions and grabbing on to the rafts that make themselves available to us, because the person who invites us to go for a run, or the person who invites us to meditate with them is not 100% the ideal person, or the weather's not 100% ideal, then we're just constantly flowing along in the momentum of our past experiences and the conditions that we grew up in and all that. And we never have this chance to change and develop and grow. But if we can have just enough wisdom to take a step back from this constant reactivity and this constant flow of causes and conditions, we can start to make skillful choices. We can start to make a choice. And depending on the choice that we make, we can find ourselves in a much worse off position than we are right now. And we can find ourselves in a much better position, a much more peaceful, happy, heavenly position than we are right now. It's just a matter of how we are willing to take a step back from our constant cause and effect reactivity, all of this momentum from our past, not only our past, but the past of the universe, really. Our parents, parents, etc., to take a step back and make a skillful choice. And it's at that point that we can start to change our stars. But we have to get involved, and we have to be willing to face those sufferings and those experiences that we're having right here, right now. That's really the very first start. Okay? And a lot of this is not, whoa, look at me. I'm this Buddhist monk and I've got everything figured out, and listen to this deep teaching, whatever. This is kind of simple stuff, but it's to be reminded that is profound. It's to take a step into the practice of taking a step back and making a skillful choice that is profound. And that's what this is about, not Buddhism or, wow, look how wise I am. I've got everything figured out, because I don't, but it's this reminder. And for me, being a monk is my constant reminder of that, to come back to that. And, this is a wonderful opportunity to practice right here, right now, to be with the breath, to feel safe, to feel in community. You can join the Discord if you like. Check out the resource list. I mean, I think back to when I was a younger person and all the suffering that I had, and the loneliness that I had, and kind of how locked in my vision was about a certain kind of people and a certain kind of world. And looking at this resource list right here, these book recommended teachers, these links to different talks and different information, it can open up a whole different world that we should know about. Okay. One question that got upvoted a lot was feelings on Jesus. I mean, I like Jesus. Yeah, it's good. Jesus is good. I don't have a problem with Jesus, but it's what Jesus represents is great. And I think the teachings of Christ are great, but we have to put it into practice, or the relevance isn't so strong, isn't so heavy. Someone says, I have cancer and I'm trying to be at peace with dying. Well, I would definitely recommend you even more so to look into some Buddhist teachings, and, because look into the truth. And that's what Buddhism is about, and what a lot of these teachers talk about is the truth. And there are many talks on being with dying and going through the process of death in a way of open-heartedness and wisdom and compassion that can be very powerful. Okay. So I think we'll bring up a few more people to ask questions. We've been going for 2 hours now. So special thanks to everyone who's hung out so far. We're going to bring up Oats in Everything, and Goofy, and Look, it's Nando, and the Bromine. And we'll also bring up Andre. And Elizabeth. Okay. So we can start with Oats. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had any thoughts on working with perfectionism in meditation practice, because I find that I can have so much pressure to do the practice right that I can tend to avoid it.
What kind of teacher? What talks have you listened to? Who have you listened to for meditation instruction?
Oh, lots of different people. I don't know. Joseph Goldstein, Andrea Feller, Shinzen Young, kind of people in lots of different traditions.
Yeah. Do you know Thich Nhat Hanh? Have you listened to Thich Nhat Hanh?
I haven't actually.
Oh, Thich Nhat Hanh's one of the really big ones. So definitely check out some Thich Nhat Hanh on YouTube when you have the time. There's a certain quality of presence and embodiment that a monk can bring to meditation teachings that a layperson can't necessarily bring. because a monk is not in the business of making money, and their entire life is meant to be an embodiment of the path itself. And that's not to discredit any of the teacher. You brought up some really important teachers, Western meditation teachers, but there's definitely a certain quality that monks can bring that I think you'll be able to appreciate. So you can try that out, but the meditation practice isn't about controlling the mind, and it's not about getting a result. Meditation is really a practice of being with the mind, showing up to the heart, showing up to our breath, showing up to whatever is happening right now. And the more that we can give up our expectations or our desire for some result from meditation, the better. One of the issues that a lot of Western people run into and have run into in meditation is that they approach it as a system, or it's presented to them as a system in which for them to get what they want. And in the worst case, it is like literally to get meditation experiences, like you get to this level and that level and that level. If you approach meditation that way, you are just a nightmare to be around, probably, in meditation circles. I mean, it's some people who are talking about, I reached this level and, I'll tell you how to do it and all that. It's, at least for me, it's leaves a very bad taste on the tongue, and in the heart. So I take meditation as exploration of being at this present moment. That's what it is at its core, at its heart. And the secular practice of mindfulness, or the secular practice of meditation, as like a training system in which to get what you want out of it, leaves so much out of the path of relationship, community, the opening of the heart. And to the degree that you're able to let go and to detach, that's the degree to which you're able to live in a more flexible, open, contemplative way, to change your entire life according to you being more and more close to the path. So the teachers that you listed are seem to be mostly secular. So do you see the comment that I left in this talk? Do you know how to get to the comments?
Yes.
All right. So Ajahn Brahm and Thich Nhat Hanh in particular. Have you ever listened to Ajahn Brahm?
No.
Okay, yeah. So the thing with some of these monk teachers, specifically Ajahn Brahm and Thich Nhat Hanh, is they're a Buddhist monk and their whole life is Buddhism. But also, that's where a lot of these teachers, these secular mindfulness teachers or meditation teachers, that's the root of where they got their understanding from. Was maybe they were a monk temporarily, or they got benefit from the Buddhist teachings, and now they share it in a secular way. But Ajahn Brahm and Thich Nhat Hanh, while they are monks, they don't share. It's not like they're sharing religious teachings. They're sharing the heart and the expression of the path coming to fruition. And taking meditation out of Buddhism is problematic, especially when you are specifically taking the meditation teachings from Buddhism and then trying to craft them onto a consumerist or materialist kind of tree. You'll miss out on so much of the path, so much of the depth of community, and the poeticism of the possibility of becoming enlightened. I like to think that the supernaturalness in Buddhism is just poetry. It's a kind of poetry of this different perspective that we can take to life that is fully valid, fully supported, and we can actualize it. If you only approach it from a secular perspective, it's like, okay, yeah, meditation, and okay, there's like these deeper truths or deeper ways of seeing things, but I still have to work at McDonald's. or I still have to go to university, or I still have to do this. I have to kind of conform this insight or this way of being or this way of understanding to the world, rather than seeing it in this way of the world conforms to this way of being, to this way of seeing. And when you can see these people or these societies, these situations where this way of being is fully supported, not because they reach a level, but because there's this trust. There's this faith. In Buddhism, faith is more like trust. And you have to have that trust in your own practice, not that you're going to get what you want out of it, but that this is the path and that you're walking it. And that's enough. Not that you need to get to this stage or that stage, but that this is enough. And to enjoy that. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I invite you to join the Discord. I hope we'll see you over there.
Thank you.
I'd love to meditate with you. All right. So we'll go to Look, It's Nando.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I think you may have answered my question more or less. So I was actually going to tell you that well, first of all, thank you for doing this. This is really, really nice to be a part and listen to you and the questions and everything. I wanted to also say, yeah, so my situation is that I guess I've been trying to keep a routine of meditation for many years, and I feel like it's always very hard for me to sort of retain. I did a Vipassana retreat 2017, and I feel like I think it was really great and it was really life changing for me. I think I learned a lot, but I feel like their method is very restrictive, and the recommendation that they give you of you have to do this like 2 hours a day, and there's not a lot of like option that I felt. So I feel like it always ends up for me that either I do a lot of it or I just don't do it at all. And sometimes I think this stuff you described about what you're expecting from it, as if there is some kind of greater goal or something that you're trying to get out of it, kind of becomes heavy for me. Anyways, I think my question was a little more on the side of like how to motivate yourself, or if you have any comments on that would be great. How to keep a routine for people who, yeah, like you said, have a lot going on in life, and whether you believe that spending 5 minutes a day is better than nothing, and why sometimes these 5 minutes feel like so much. It's so hard to achieve. Thank you.
Okay. All right. What had the biggest impact on me and what continues to have the biggest impact on me in supporting me to meditate regularly is being a part of a community. So if you can find a community in your area, that's great. If you want to join the Discord server that I run, that's great. We have, right now we have daily group meditation every day at 8 p.m. New York time. And that's attended by 20 to 30 people every day, joining in Discord, voice call, video call. Depends on, you can turn on your camera if you want. You should also try to find a sangha or community in your area. And the practice is always to come back to the present, not to try and make the present what we want it to be. And the more that you can notice that and abandon that, the more that you can practice, the more you can practice wholeheartedly. And explore. Look, if this is something you're really serious about and really sincere about and interested in, explore. Go to Google Maps, search for Meditation Center. Go to Google Maps, search for Buddhist. If you live in a major city, you can be sure that there's all kinds of meditation groups and meetups and Buddhist centers. Buddhism is like the gold standard for meditation in world religions. It really, really is. For secular, deep meditation, Buddhism is the gold standard. And that's probably why we have such a hyper romanticized view of monks. Sometimes people say to me, aren't you not supposed to talk, or aren't you not supposed to use technology? Aren't you supposed to be blindfolded and buried 6 feet under in the jungle for your whole life because you're a monk? Because it really is the gold standard for meditation, and even, wisdom teachings. A big part of it is Buddhism. So you can look in your area for a Buddhist temple. Just Google Maps Buddhist and start calling around, start visiting. A part of this getting into meditation and really developing on the path is being willing to walk and look and explore and investigate and try out, not just in your mind, but in your body. Show up to a Buddhist temple, to a meditation center, to a meditation retreat. Not, you go to one place and now you know all about meditation and Buddhism or the meditation world. No, it's just you try it out and you keep exploring. You keep looking. You keep being a seeker on the path. And in that way, your practice becomes a way of living, not just something that you drudge yourself through. And you can experience that way as well, that the practice is the goal. The showing up is the showing up. And that's what's most essential. That's what we need to learn how to do and find a way to support us to do that more and more. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So we have the bromine. Theo, you have a question?
Sorry for the wait. My question is a little bit obscure, so just please excuse that. And my understanding is imperfect, so if I express my thoughts incorrectly, please excuse me. In relation to Western esoteric thought, we have something called the third veil, crossing the third veil, and I find it similar to the concept of enlightenment in Buddhism. But to help us achieve that, we have something known as knowledge and conversation with our holy guardian angel, because that veil is understood to be something really hard to cross on our own. I was wondering, how do you feel about using external entities to help us become enlightened, quote unquote?
It's really convenient. So in Buddhism, especially in Mahayana Buddhism, so there's two main traditions of Buddhism. There's two main schools of Buddhism. One is Theravada, which we say is the more traditional school of Buddhism. That is kind of, I wouldn't really say this, but it's kind of commonly said that this is the tradition of Buddhism that is more close to like the Buddhism as it was in India. Okay, so in Theravada Buddhism, there's it's very, very traditional. The monks tend to live completely on the donations from food of the Buddhist people, and in that tradition in Theravada, so in Thailand, in Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, in these kinds of places, the monks are that. The monks are these outside entities that are kind of seen as holy and put on a pedestal to represent enlightenment, and in some sense worshipped, but more are held in deep reverence and then kind of called upon to give advice or to give support. And through that reverence of the monks, there's kind of this alleviation of self-fixation, because you're putting something higher than you, and it doesn't matter if it's perfect or it's better or whatever. There's something that is representing something that's virtuous and wise and peace, and so you participate in this active reverence for that, and it allows you to detach from yourself, and you can kind of call on the power of the monk. Because you have put them in that position, when your mind gets caught up, or when there's a social situation that you get caught up in, or you and another person get caught up in, you can go to the temple, you can go to the monk and say, look, this is what's happening. And both of you can have your situations put down because you have this respect, this active reverence for the monk. And in human society, this is something that's been going on for a long time, and is workable, but also completely human and open to abuse. But also there are a lot of benefits and conveniences that come about from it. Okay, it really can be used for good and for growth and development on the path when you have that active reverence for someone that allows you to put yourself down and listen to advice and be less egoic. Okay, mostly because of what that person represents, not necessarily that you are studying them and following them around all the time, but it's the robes of the monk that represent that, the enlightenment of the Buddha. So that's in the Theravada tradition. The monks kind of are that. In the Mahayana tradition, Buddhism kind of went to China. From India, Buddhism went to China, and they had maybe a more fleshed out, like, philosophical society or cultural society. And so when Buddhism arrived there, when the monks arrived there, there was a society that was more focused on people supporting themselves, and they weren't so supportive of, like, begging. And so even though it was accepted for the monks to beg, and it's been a normal thing throughout history for begging to take place, and then for monks or priests, this kind of holy begging, basically you're receiving support depending on your virtue, your goodness. So in the time of the Buddha and the Buddhist monks would walk through the village, this 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago village in ancient India, and looking out of your home, you would see this being, this monk who was probably, in rags, robes, not so beautiful or wonderful, but a quality of brightness and freedom and happiness and joy and peace that this monk was carrying with them. And it's kind of like we can see the minds of each other to a certain extent. And so the mind of the Buddha was so powerful and so alive and so bright that it would be, when you saw someone like the Buddha, it would be just like you were seeing a 6'5", 450-pound bodybuilder. You see it. It's clear. It's right there. It attracts your attention. And so in the same way that the body can be trained like that, and it's very interesting, it brings in your attention, the mind can also be trained like that in terms of balance, peace, equanimity, concentration, awareness, presence. So in the time of the Buddha and his monks would walk through these villages, and the people would see the monks and they want to donate. They want to support. They see this and they want to support virtue. They want to support the life of this monk and the teachings of this monk, so they will donate. Okay, it's the same in the modern day. People donate to me, people support me so that I can continue doing what I'm doing, not because I'm going to return a profit to them, but because they trust that I will continue doing my best to train the mind and develop merit and sharing teachings and helping others. So they support me to do that. In Mahayana Buddhism as it went to China from India, long after the Buddha passed away, there was this culture of not begging, and it was kind of a lowly activity. So the monks developed a more somewhat reclusive and independent way of living, and from that, related to that, there developed a certain archetypes that we call bodhisattvas. Okay, and a bodhisattva is like an archetype or a fully embodied or kind of trusted in representation of a aspect of mind, of a positive aspect of mind. So for example, we have one bodhisattva, Guanyin Pusa, Avalokiteshvara. That's the bodhisattva of compassion and the archetype of compassion. And then another one is Manjushri, which is like the archetype of wisdom, Okay, and these are fleshed out. There's images, there's a story, there's a background, but it's basically an archetype, a fleshed out, empowered archetype that represents a quality of mind. Now, the unique aspect of this in Buddhism is that we don't assume a self. A self, a soul, or a someone is not at the heart of Buddhist philosophy. There's a real true self, okay? So if that's the case, then this bodhisattva, this archetype of compassion, is just as real as you. You're not, you say, well, look at me, I've got a body and a mind or whatever. Well, is that necessarily a self? Is that fixed? Is it permanent? Is it not subject to change? Is it under your control? Whatever, it's not permanent. So, in Buddhism, we say it's not self. So in that case, this archetype of compassion is just as real as you or me. And whereas you have this selfishness and this attachment and all this complicated thinking and this anger and this greed and this delusion, this archetype has none of that. And so believing in or trusting in or having faith in this archetypal representation of an aspect of mind, which is an aspect of reality, and being able to chant the name of Namo Guanshu Yimpu Sa, for example, which is a Buddhist practice, we will chant the name of the archetype, the name of the bodhisattva, you are able to touch something that is bigger than you and in many ways is more reliable than you are, than your self-fixation, than your attachment, than your worry, your suffering. So we can use the power of the bodhisattvas to practice, to develop, to grow. And even from a secular Buddhist perspective, some people say, well, bodhisattvas weren't there in original Buddhism. I only follow the original Buddhist teachings, meditation, ethics, and the insight that comes from that. Well, still in that, in Buddhism, there's not a real, true, permanent self. So you think of how much you focus on yourself. Think of how much you focus on your desires and your dreams and your story and your thoughts and your beliefs and how problematic all of that is and how much attention you give to that and how much fuel you give to that. Well, if that's actually your case, if that's your condition, and for most everyone it is, why not give that attention to Guanshu Yimpu Sa? Why not give that attention to this archetype, this bodhisattva of peace, compassion, joy? And it's depicted in all kinds of wonderful ways. The image of a beautiful woman offering a flower and this vase of water pouring out, compassion pouring out into the world. And the story of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva is that sometimes depicted with 1,000 arms, 1,000 hands, and on each hand is an eye. And so that's with each eye can see all the suffering of the world. And with each hand can heal, can mend, can take care of that suffering. So it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And so we can use the power of these bodhisattvas, which are, at least from a real Buddhist perspectives, are not any more real, but not any less real than you or me, to develop our practice and become less selfish and less self-fixated. And eventually we can detach from even those, but we can still have a great appreciation for the tools that are there. And so there's a great convenience in using the power of, what you might call an angel or something, but using the power of an archetype or the power of what the monk represents to continue and develop our practice.
Thank you. And sorry, I just have one more question. How do you feel about your second body? Sorry, your astral body.
We don't really get into that kind of stuff in Buddhism. It's very much about training the mind, seeing the nature of reality at this present moment that does not rely on words or phrases, concepts, stories, belief. All of the Buddhist teachings are directives to investigate the nature of truth at this present moment, which does not rely on thoughts, words, phrases, stories, doesn't even rely on a body or a mind. But through this process of investigation, we can learn about the truth. And that's the truth through our experience, which can expand and develop and grow and deepen the more that we take the position to really explore and be curious and be interested in the body and the mind at this present moment. That's what meditation is all about. Okay. Thank you, Bromine.
Thank you. That will be all.
So we'll go now to Elizabeth.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm a middle school teacher here in the States, and I would like to know what would you recommend is useful teaching students in public school education, and perhaps activities or exercises that may be helpful in, if not just internalizing Buddhist philosophy, at least some practices that will help them navigate their day-to-day lives and any emotional anxieties that they may be dealing with.
Yeah. So there's probably a lot of books and a lot of teachings on this. How to give classes or give messages to kids that will support them to deepen their ability to understand their suffering and to transform it, to deal with it in healthy ways. I would say that the more you empower yourself through practice and investigation, looking at the resource list, checking out these teachers, and the recommended teachers that are in the resource list that I posted in the comments. All you have to do, especially Ajahn Brahm and Thich Nhat Hanh, all you have to do is search Ajahn Brahm and then the subject that you're interested in. Maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's fear, maybe it's children. Search Ajahn Brahm, children. Search Thich Nhat Hanh, children, and there are many, many options for powerful talks, wise talks that are really going to give you support and deep information to empower you. Okay. I think the main thing that needs to be emphasized to kids, and you have a limited ability to do that, you're not their parent, but emphasizing the power of doing good deeds and emphasizing the power of coming back to this present moment, and that this present moment is not an idea, it's not a story, it's not it's also not our anxiety, our fear, our confusion, our depression, but it's a real lived experience at this moment. So directing kids to turn the mind around, turning that attention around, to look inward. But maybe the most direct, the most basic thing is this teaching of, if you want to feel good, you have to do good, period. And if you can do good deeds, if you can be generous, if you can find ways to do acts of goodness in your life, it's for sure going to improve your life inside and out. So encouraging kids to do that and letting them know about that. The power of doing good deeds.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay. So we have been going now for 2.5 hours. It seems that there's still a lot of people here. It says there's 360 people here. And we have about 30 people over on the YouTube. This is quite wonderful, quite great. I'm glad that you're all here. So what I will ask is that if someone has a question that they would like to ask in the comments, please post that question again. All right, repost that question. And if you have a question that you would like to ask with your voice, please at this time raise your hand, and I will bring you up and do my best to answer your question. Okay? And we'll answer a few more before we before we wrap up. I appreciate everyone taking their time to be here and listen. Humbling. And I appreciate it a lot for everyone to be here. Okay. So bring up I'm having a little bit of a glitch here on my computer browser, so give me a sec. Okay, we're still here, so we'll bring up Treat Educational, McFryan, Revelation, Conan, Wabis, Lilium, McFry, Basic, and Turbulent. Okay, and then I'll watch out for any more questions coming in through the comments. And before we do wrap up, if anyone wants to see me, if you go to the comments, you can find the link to my YouTube, and I am live streaming right now, so you can see the monk who's been answering all these questions face. And I do have a Discord community, and our current schedule is group meditations, discussions, and like a deeper study of Buddhist teachings, different texts and things like that every day at 8 p.m. New York time. So that's our regular schedule right now. And we do host sessions on the Discord, so like a live group meditation call, and then we share those on the YouTube channel. Okay. So go ahead to McFry. You can unmute and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm 36 years old. I'm an ex combat medic.
Oh wow.
I was raised Catholic, and I went to Catholic school until I was in 7th grade. I married my wife, and her parents are super evangelical Christian. And she went to Christian schools, college and high school and elementary school. That's like all she knew when she grew up. I pretty much stopped believing in like a Christian God my second tour in Iraq, and she pretty much stopped believing in a Christian God. I think when she was in college. But my brother is married to a Thai Buddhist, and I have two nephews that are Buddhist, and I just spent a week and a half with them.
Oh.
And it was really enlightening, really opened up my eyes to a lot of things. And I think we're really thinking about converting to Buddhism.
Oh wow.
Or becoming Buddhist. But we're just afraid. We're afraid that her parents will like disown us, cut us off, whatever, because they're like super evangelical Christian. And I don't know, I guess I was just wondering if you had any like advice or suggestions.
Yeah. So the religion or the spirituality that you follow, whatever it is, philosophy or the community that you're involved with, that's really personal. That's really intimate. And one of the nice things about Buddhism is that you can kind of explain to people if they ask about it or if they challenge you about this is your religion, what are you doing? It's about meditation. Buddhism is about meditation. And you can let people know if you are challenged about it that you don't worship the Buddha, what have you. But really, at the heart of it, getting involved in activities to end suffering in your life, which is the intentionality of Buddhism. You're not getting into Buddhism to worship the Buddha, right? So the intentionality would be, I feel that this is something that can bring peace and happiness and joy and community into my life, right? So if you were if that's your intentionality, you've got to be willing to follow through with that and not let someone's judgment or the potentiality of some adverse effect to keep you from that. And I can say that Buddhism has supported and enriched my life to a degree that I couldn't really explain or put into words. Just a real empowerment, a real community, a real safety, and a lot of wisdom that's there as well. A lot of it's cultural, but if you take those steps to start looking into it, and the resource list that I provided in the comments is definitely, there are steps there that you can start looking into it. And I'm happy to be a resource for you, and send me a message, get in touch, and I'm happy to support. We have to follow through with those things in our lives that are coming from real deep good intentions. And
shut the fuck up.
And sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah. Who was that? Who did that?
It
Someone
was
in
Emily.
520.
What? It wasn't me.
Oh, Emily, not good. So sometimes in these kind of talks, you do things online, you spread out, then you might find strange things happen. But you've got to follow through with that stuff from a deep, strong intention, and do your best. And then when those problems come up, if that's really your intention, is to do good and to grow and to live more skillfully, then that's exactly what you're going to be carrying with you when those problems come up. That sincerity, that skillfulness that you get from living that way. So step into it. I hope I can be a resource and a support. Even I would hope, my wish would be that even someone who absolutely despised me for whatever reason, strongly disliked me for whatever reason, if they did want to get into Buddhism or to meditation, to send me a message, say, what resources do you got? What resources you got, at least, so that you can take those steps on your own, because at the end of the day, I can't walk for anybody, even if they really like me. So I wish you the best of luck. And Thai culture is wonderful and enriching, and great food, and temple events can be a lot of fun, and meeting monks and all that. So I hope you'll enjoy it.
Oh man, when I went there, it was they live in Wisconsin now, so they're not in Thailand anymore. But even in America, they live in a super white suburban area, and it was just like, it was a culture shock for me, and it was
It's
really, but it
it's
was
a very
good
different
though. I loved
culture.
it.
Yeah, it's very different culture,
So
and very empowered. They're empowered with wisdom and meditation. So
oh yeah,
it's
and
spicy.
my wife has a sister, so I have another sister-in-law, and me and my wife, we've been married for 8 years. But I've only met my brother's wife twice, and once was only for a day, and then this last like week and a half, and in that week and a half, I've become to feel like I have an actual sister,
Yeah.
and I think that's pretty cool. But I'll let you get on to other people. Thank you for answering my question, and I just there is a Buddhist temple in my city. Can I just like go there?
So do you live in like a metropolitan city?
Yes.
So there's a bunch of Buddhist temples there. If you're real interested in it, um, you can send me a message here on Reddit or wherever, whatever way you can find to send me a message, and I'm happy to look in your community, in your area, and see what Buddhist temples are there. But outside of that, and like make a recommendation. But outside of that, just call ahead, and let them know. Simple, speak direct. Hi, I'm interested in meditation. I'm interested in Buddhism. Can I come by and have a meal? Can I, or something like that? And yeah, it'll work out fine. But usually they
All right.
like for you to call ahead. And a strong recommendation I have is for the Plum Village tradition. And they also have an app, Plum Village app. And that's a Vietnamese Buddhist tradition, but it has a very strong emphasis on the Buddhism for Western people and developing community for Western people and Buddhism. So I highly recommend Plum Village. And if you're in a metropolitan city, then they'll have like a branch community there at the very least.
Okay. All right. Awesome, man. Thanks a lot. I'll follow you on Discord, and I'll follow you on Reddit too, man.
Welcome. Take care.
All right.
See you
You
around.
too. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be around.
Okay. All right. So we'll go to Revelation. Is that right?
Yes, thank you. So, first of all, I'm sorry. I have a question, yes, but I wanted to say that I am really, really interested in this stuff, and I don't necessarily know who to talk to because I always have so many questions that I've actually forgot, like all of them. But not, no, I have one, so don't worry. So I was really curious if there was any type of way at some point maybe to talk to you, more one-on-one, maybe not. I don't. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but because I have so many, it'll be a really long conversation. Okay, anyways, to my question. When it comes to people like narcissists, it's a very are you familiar with what a narcissist is?
No.
Okay, so there's personality traits known as narcissism, the sociopath, and psychopaths. It's a really wary line between these personality types, but essentially, with these types of people, they have a very hard time admitting that they're wrong, and they actually have a sense of inferiority, but they like to project a message, but they like to project themselves as superior in order to like try to convince others and themselves of what they're actually feeling.
All right.
So when it comes to these practices and spirituality and surrendering, those types of personalities psychologically have a very hard time doing that. So I was just curious as if you would have any type of insight to that type of personality or instance among people, because it's roughly 1% of the population, but I think that these days it's more than that. And I'm sorry if I've been talking a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, don't overthink it. And your ability to not overthink it is your ability to see it for what it is at this present moment. So the major teaching of the Buddhist path is to be willing to let go what you get tangled up with, what you get involved with. If you want to know about the skills for dealing with narcissists, that sounds like a Gawker article or something. I really wouldn't know what to say about that. I'm not well read on like narcissist or psychological terms, but I'd be happy to talk with you moving forward. But a lot of the answers to strongly intellectual, conceptual questions are take it out of your mouth. I like to talk about detachment in this way. So, detachment, or this willingness to let go, this ability to let go, is just because you see something on the floor doesn't mean you have to pick it up. Okay, you see something, you're willing to let it go, you're able to let it go. So just because you see something on the floor doesn't mean you need to pick it up. Just because you picked it up doesn't mean you need to put it in your mouth. Just because you put it in your mouth doesn't mean you need to swallow it. Just because you swallow it doesn't mean you need to do the same thing all over again. So this is just like the practice of letting go, of giving up, even though we get attached to something, even though we get involved with something, even though we believe that something is, for whatever reason, very important for us to think about and solve, etc., etc. We are willing to put it down, to let it go, to give it up, whatever it is. And this is the practice of detachment in Buddhism, and it's really at the heart of the Buddhist philosophy, willing to give up, willing to let go. Okay, so reach out to me and we will talk more sometime.
All right, thank you. That's your answer helped to some degree.
Okay.
I have a common instance of my questions not really being able to be. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Okay, sorry. Thank you for doing this, and I appreciate you choosing me. Thanks. Yeah.
Ah, great. Yeah, I hope I'll see you over in the Discord. Join for some group meditations, and start to practice. Start to get involved. Right? It's not until we start to get involved that our thoughts or our questions or our comments have any meaning. Okay, it's like going to the firehouse and telling the firefighters, well, look, maybe we should do it a different way. It doesn't matter if you have a good thought about it or you really thought it through. You're not involved with it. You're not a firefighter. You haven't passed the training. You haven't showed up enough. You haven't put on the boots. You haven't, whatever firefighters do, you haven't slid down the pole. You're not involved. So if we want our questions and our thoughts to have a weight, a depth, a relevance, a reality to them, we have to get involved. And it's never going to be perfect. So that's why a gentleness and a restarting and a refreshing and a letting go have to be at the core of our practice as well, because we have to keep trying. But until you get involved, most of your questions are not going to be relevant, really. And someone might be able to answer them in a certain way, but from my perspective, the best way that a lot of questions can be answered is just like taking that thing out of the person's mouth before they swallow it. You don't have to swallow it. You don't have to hang on to this. You don't have to be tripped up by your anxiety or your worry or your difficult experience. You can simply be aware and present to this moment. And that's enough.
Okay, so just to put what you're saying into different words, what you're saying is try to just not worry about the questions too much.
Yes.
Just kind of explore.
Yeah, practice. Yeah, explore, practice, show up. The biggest thing is showing up. It's just like for a job. Unless you show up, that's it. And the major thing you need to do is show up. Whether you're an accountant or a super doctor or a whatever it is, or a laborer, if you don't show up, it's a zero. So it's the same with your, you want to know about Buddhism, you want to know about meditation, find a way to show up. And that you can join the Discord. That's a convenient way to show up. 8 p.m. every day, New York time. Find a community in your area to show up to, a meditation group. Find a way to volunteer in your area. Go to a soup kitchen. Google volunteering opportunities near me, whatever it might be. Find a way to show up and do good deeds. Be generous. And this is more important than most questions that anyone will have. Okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've taken
Thank you, Turbulent.
Right, thank you.
I hope I'll see you over in the Discord, all right?
All right, sure thing. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Conan, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm in my 40s now, and I only recently picked up a sports sport called free diving. And it's been a couple of months I've been practicing it. And for the people in the audience that don't know what it is, it's basically diving, holding your breath without any apparatuses or, any spare air. And what I discovered is that after you go through all the technicalities of it, there's the rest of the work that comes with free diving is just working with your mind and conquering your fear and a lot of things that go down with you down there when you dive. And from my experience, it's been like meditation on steroids. And I was like wondering, do you have any comments on maybe other people that you met that have experiences with other types of sports and how their bodies and the environment that their bodies are subjected to in those sports, how this changes the perception of the mind and the perception of meditative states. So we often hear people having those stories about climbing mountains and going into trance while running marathons and all that. And I was like wondering if there's any I mean wisdom to it when you subject your body to some sort of experience, extreme experience, and how this changes the practice of living in the moment. Yeah.
So I'm not a extreme sports professional. Um, I'm sure that I think of someone like David Goggins, or, I'm sure there are people who are adrenaline junkies or do these high risk activities and also have quite a sincere meditation practice. And I'm sure that some of them could speak quite directly on that. But no one comes to mind in particular that I could reference or point you to. So, what I can say from my experiences with high intensity activities is that as we go into those high stress moments and we experience an ability to not react to the body's reaction, at that moment we can make a discernment between the mind and the body. And in making that discernment, we can develop a clear understanding of our ability to not react. And it's that ability to not react that is our meditation factor, our meditation ability. Okay, to be aware with not reacting. In deepening our meditation and becoming a meditator and making this a big part of our lives, it's all about consistency. And so if you're going through those high stress or intense experiences where you can clearly discern that the mind has a capacity to not react to the body, bring that wisdom, bring that understanding to a meditation practice. And in that way, I think, you could deepen your understanding, and you could be the person to answer this question the next time it's asked. Okay, but that wisdom, that insight about the mind being in somewhat not separate but discernible from the body. Okay, the mind's not really separate from the body, but discernible, distinguished from the body, and that as much as the mind has a tendency to, or can and does, react to our anxiety or our fear or the physical state, it also has a capacity to not react to that. And staying in that place of non-reactivity, but just being aware, is a very important quality that we should bring to meditation.
Yeah, thanks. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So how about Basic? Have a question?
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you so much for doing this. I'll give you a little bit of background and then ask my question.
Okay.
So in the past 8 years, I've transformed my life, and not it's been very difficult having to look at myself and become aware of the person that I was in the past. So I had to work very, very hard, not just mentally, but physically as well, to reach my goals. And in the process, I realized that my behavior was not the best. I come from a long line of long family history of abuse and just seeing other people get hurt, and I mirrored that behavior and I started doing it myself. So my question to you is, now that I'm slightly more aware of the person that I was in the past, I've worked to a point of knowing a little bit better who I am and what I want to do good, regardless of what I get back, because that's not the goal. It's just to do the good deeds and make people happy. I can't find the power to forgive myself because I've hurt some very good people, but I didn't do it intentionally. um, I don't know how to forgive myself. So how can I at least start?
Um, you can start to get involved in some more direct and integral work. Okay. So that means doing something like practicing a loving kindness meditation. And
Okay.
there's links for that in the resource post that I made, especially Sharon Salzberg. Okay, and there's two links for loving kindness meditations. So what I want you to understand is that you can forgive yourself. You can develop this this ability and work through this and walk through this and develop it. It's just a matter of you've already done some of the work. You've forgived yourself to a degree, but it's a matter of getting more involved in that and taking even more care of that, building on what you've already established. And so there are people who can teach you loving kindness. There are people who can teach you and guide you on how to generate loving kindness and forgiveness inside of yourself. And one of them is Sharon Salzberg that I recommend. And there's also it's a 10-day loving kindness course that I can recommend here. 10-day loving kindness challenge. And I can recommend this playlist here. Do you see the comment that I posted with the resources on it?
I am looking for it. I almost lost you, so I'm sure I'll be able to find it. And I do have a question that is also important to this.
Okay.
Part of that learned behavior came from my family, and I have a lot of anger inside of me for, like outside factors, and I'm realizing that they were also a product of their environment. Um, I suffer when other people that I care about suffer, and I've been told to not take on that weight, which I'm working on. But that learned behavior that led me to make some of those mistakes, and I own up to my behavior. I was the one who chose to do the things that I did. But I grew up thinking that it would be okay to do certain things that were awful. Um, those same people are very manipulative. They're loving, but they're extremely manipulative, and I've learned to put up boundaries to protect myself and to be able to change and step away from any pain. These people, let's say, they throw my mistakes back in my face when they were the main perpetrators. So, how do I step away from the shame that, I made mistakes and I owned up to them and I'm moving forward? I think it's a fear of me leaving those people behind.
So this would be a more therapy kind of
Hmm.
question.
Okay.
And I'm not. I'm sure I could come up with something, but I'm not. I'm not really in a good position to answer that. What I can offer as an answer, and I'm in a good position to share this with you, is this resource list. And so, taking it, you sound like someone who's quite capable to follow through and to take appropriate steps if you feel that they need to be taken. And if you go to the comments of this Reddit live talk, I'll send it to you in a message. Okay, so
Thank you
that
so much.
you don't need to figure it out. And anyone who doesn't see what I'm talking about, you can send me a message here on Reddit, or you can contact me on Facebook, and I'll send you this resource list. You are basic, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to send you this. It's a lot of resources, but you can focus in on the loving kindness meditations that are linked, and also um, the 10-day challenge, the 10-day loving kindness challenge that you can look at. So
Perfect.
one
Thank you so
second.
much.
And we would also love to have you over on the Discord server if you have the time, if it's convenient. It'd be great to have you over there, and you can come and practice some meditation with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And a shout out to McCrying. I had a similar experience, grew up Catholic, was born in a Catholic country before I came to the US, and going against family when it comes to a belief system, it's very challenging. But at the end of the day, you have to tell yourself that you have to be happy with yourself. And it seems that you and your wife are supportive of each other and want to go on this journey. Make sure that you find your happiness, because your family is not going to give you that happiness. So just shout out to that person.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Basic.
Sure.
So Lord Sensei, did you have the final question for us here today?
Yes, actually, I tuned in a little bit late, so thanks for taking my question still.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I am, I'd consider myself an atheist, but I'm very interested in just Buddhism as a philosophy, if you will. And I come from a culture where generally, historically speaking, um, the idea is that if someone is a monk, then they've kind of let go of all worldly things, right? And that includes technology, and that obviously includes practicing abstinence and everything. And this is more so a question about about monks, if you will. Today I see that there's been a little bit of a shift in, a monk is now using, for example, what we're doing here. You're using a digital medium to just have a discussion with people. So the use of technology seems like it has actually now become somewhat of an accepted thing. So my question is, what is the idea behind that, and what's the culture in terms of, can you use technology as a monk? Are you allowed to not practice abstinence as a monk? If someone like me, a working class person who does his 9 to 5 every day, can I still try to be on a path of becoming a monk while still living my worldly life, so to speak?
Okay. Thank you, Lord Sensei. So being a monk doesn't mean that we're enlightened. It certainly doesn't mean that we are Mormon, or excuse me, Amish. Monks have never been Amish. And it also doesn't mean that we're perfect, doesn't mean that we're enlightened. Um, what it means is that we are on the path of giving up, of letting go, that our main focus in life is mindfulness, detachment, doing good deeds. Following the Buddhist teachings, following the precepts, which include celibacy, which include refraining from drugs and alcohol and substances, which include refraining from entertainments, which include a large variety of precepts, rules, and regulations for the way that we live our life. A monk is not a nebulous concept. Okay, a monk is a monk because they are ordained by the fraternity of Buddhist monks, because they are brought into the community formally. There is a ordination procedure. There is a process that one must go through to become a monk. Buddhism and monastic life and being a monk are as far from nebulous as possible. The life of a monk as it exists in countries such as Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia is at the very core of the society as a whole. So when we think of a religious society or a religious country, Maybe we're thinking that in general societies aren't like that anymore, but that there are still Muslim countries or Muslim societies. In fact, the Buddhist countries that exist are far more living, functioning religious societies than Islamic ones would be, in terms of full spectrum religious society, where the entire society is built around and has this active aspect of religion, outside of perhaps, a place where the Taliban has taken over, something like that, where Sharia law is in effect. In these countries, the life of a monk is inseparable from the religion, the philosophy of Buddhism as a whole. And so what it means to be a Buddhist in these Buddhist societies, these Buddhist countries where literally 90% of people are Buddhist, that means the relationship between the monks and the lay people. So you don't need to become a monk to be a Buddhist. You don't need to become a monk to be celibate. You don't need to become a Buddhist priest to get involved in meditation and skillful living and restraint to a great degree. But you can. It is possible if you're interested. As monks, we follow 227 rules and regulations, and even more than that, in fact, that are the precepts and the guidelines for the way that we live our lives. Some are more practical, some are less practical, but it's a way of controlling the mind. It is a way of regulating our life so that we can focus more fully on mindfulness, detachment, doing good deeds. Having those precepts and having those rules doesn't mean that we perfectly, absolutely follow them all the time, but it means that the intentionality is there and that the precepts, the rules are there to support us on the path, and that it is our responsibility to be aware of them and to hold our conduct accountable to them. Okay, going back 2,500 years, this monastic institution, this monastic tradition. Now, monks have never been Amish, and we certainly didn't adopt Amish qualities of life in the 21st century so that we will renounce technology or something like that. Technology, entertainment, whatever it is that we come across is to be used only, experienced only. Not someone, not something, not some story, not some past, not some future, not some right, not some wrong. From a intentionality of doing good, of helping, of bringing benefit, using only, experiencing only, at this present moment, reality as it is. Okay? There's a Buddhist saying, we can say a Zen saying, it is just like this. It is not some other way. There's not some convoluted narrative alphabet stew floating in the sky that we're waiting to reference or come back to. It is just like this. It is not some other way. And that is to experience only, to be aware only. This present moment, this present mind, this present body as it is right here, right now. Just sitting, just breathing, just being aware. So I would like to thank everyone very sincerely. I offer a deep bow to everyone, especially those people who have stuck around for quite a while. I bow to you, and I appreciate you all taking the time to be here and to listen and to offer your kind of sincerity to this experience. It's definitely encouraged me and inspired me to do my best to give good answers and helpful answers. Moving forward, if you are interested to get more involved in meditation or learn about Buddhist philosophy, or if you're looking to join a community of people who are into having more peace in their lives, doing more good deeds, supporting one another on the path of transforming suffering, I invite you to join our Discord server. And even more so than that, I invite you to go to the comments of this post this live talk, and you'll find a full list of resources for a book recommendation, recommended teachers, the link to join the Discord, the way to check out my YouTube channel where I host group meditations daily, book recommendation, links to loving kindness meditations. I hope that this is an invitation to develop on your path and to take these steps to get more involved in your life in a skillful way. And if any of that is too difficult or too confusing, just click on my username here on Reddit. Send me a message and I'll get these resources to you somehow. And I'll do my best to help, okay? Thank you all for being here. May you all be well, happy, peaceful, and free from suffering. And I wish you all the best of luck on your journey. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Goodbye.